Shalom, Israel. Greetings to all my family and friends. We're going to talk about the book of Leviticus. This is normally not my usual or my normal, but when something pops up 2 or 3 times in a short period of time, to me that's a sign the Most High wants this to be dealt with. And the question that has come up several times in just this past week has been chicken. Is chicken unclean? Now, I have seen in the past years where different people claim chicken is unclean. They've made videos that they take as proof. But when I looked at the videos, I saw theory. I didn't see proof. And we can't make someone's theory proof. It lacks evidence. So what I think is happening is they heard it from somebody and they just carried that bone and claimed it as truth in their video. But again, I have not seen any proof. So I decided, as we all should, to investigate this claim myself. Now, I've always thought and believed chicken was clean, and I never felt that I needed to prove this to anybody, but it looks like maybe it's time. And I'm pretty sure some of you, or a lot of you, or maybe even most of you, are probably dealing with this same dilemma. So I gathered evidence, and my research pointed to my conclusion, as it always has been: chicken is clean. So let's look at the evidence. Maybe we can put this dilemma to rest. Leviticus chapter 11, verse 13 to 23. Is chicken unclean? These are the birds you are to detest and not eat, because they are detestable: the eagle, the vulture, the black vulture, the red kite, any kind of black kite, any kind of raven, the horned owl, the screech owl, the gull, any kind of hawk, the little owl, the cormorant, the great owl, the white owl, the desert owl, the osprey, the stork, any kind of heron, the hoopoe, and the bat. Now, all the flying insects that walk on all fours are to be detestable to you. There are, however, some winged creatures that walk on all fours that you may eat. Those that have jointed legs for hopping on the ground. Of these you may eat any kind of locust, katydid, cricket, or grasshopper. But all other winged creatures that have 4 legs you are to detest. First, let me mention, chicken does not have 4 legs. Now, those lessons that I saw in the past years, one of the main things they use to confirm chicken being unclean is the fact that the chicken, they say, have 4 toes. Now, I'm sure, after doing my research in the scripture and by other resources, the chicken's legs are not categorized as feet. They are categorized as hands, as strange as that might sound. And yes, they do have 4 things on that hand that appears to be toes or feet. But here's the thing that they miss. If all 4 of those so-called toes were all pointed forward, that would make that bird an unclean bird. But according to Scripture, if it's 3 toes pointed forward and 1 back, that does not disqualify this bird. It doesn't make that bird unclean. Now let's look at the birds you must avoid eating. There are numerous birds in our nature. Are all acceptable to eat? Absolutely not. So when you choose any bird for eating, you must avoid these birds given below: eagles, vultures, buzzards, kites, and all types of falcons, any blackbirds, ostriches, nighthawks, seagulls, any kind of hawks, owls, cormorants, great owls, water hens, pelicans, carrion vultures, storks, all kinds of herons and hoops, crows and bats, etc. Now, different kind of religions in the world consume chicken. A list is given below you can take because these are a clean bird of the Most High. Let's take a look. The dove, the duck, the goose, the grouse, the guinea fowl. And the guinea fowl, y'all, whether y'all realize it or not, is a member of the chicken family. The partridge peafowl, the pheasant, the pigeon, the prairie chicken, that is also in the chicken fowl family. Let me say that again. The prairie chicken, ptarmigan, quail, sage hen, sparrow, and other songbirds, swan, teal, turkey. Now, some believe that because the actual word chicken wasn't used in the Bible, that it was on the list of food not to eat. But beware, spiders was also not mentioned. But we know spiders exist, although we're not permitted to eat spiders. I'm just saying. There's a lot of things that we're not permitted to eat that are not on that list. The Orthodox Union has researched and documented many of the birds. Numerous articles have been published in an effort to establish which birds can be certified as kosher. Now, before I go further, let me explain something about being kosher. Even the clean meats that we are permitted to eat, if they're not slaughtered by the kosher method, they will be unclean to eat. In other words, there are a certain way that these animals have to be slaughtered. A chicken, for example, has to be hung from its hands or feet, whichever you choose to call them, upside down into a funnel where the head sticks through, that gives you access to the chicken's neck. There, at that point, you are to cut the chicken's neck, let the blood drain to a hole in the ground, and when it's finished, you are to cover the blood with the dirt. That's kosher. I never hear any of these people talk about this because obviously they've been misled and they're not clear on the fact that chicken is a clean meat. So, where was I? In an effort to establish which birds can be certified as kosher, many birds have been certified kosher, at least in name, since ancient times. Goose and duck were probably consumed by the Jews of Egypt prior to the Exodus. Chicken was consumed since the time of the Second Temple. Pigeons, doves, sparrow, and quail were consumed by the Israelites while they sojourned in the Sinai desert. There are other birds such as partridges and songbirds which have been consumed for thousands of years, their consumption originating in a time when people still recognize the forbidden birds listed in the Bible. Now, this article here, Jerusalem Dig sheds light on 2,000-year-old eating habits of local Israelites and Jews. This was an actual archaeological dig. I'm not sure if this was their intent to try to discover whether there was bones of certain animals eaten by the ancient Israelites that were clean or unclean, but nevertheless, let's take a look at what they found. Sheep and goats were the order of the day. Pork and shellfish nowhere to be found. And pigeons were bred for sacrifices on the Temple Mount. Ancient Israelites from the Second Temple period were kosher and dined primarily on sheep and goat. For those of you who have been led to believe we're not supposed to eat meat, I don't know how in the world that even flew. I can find 100 scriptures in the book where they were eating meat, and it was not forbidden. But let's keep going. Ancient Israelites from the Second Temple period were kosher and dined primarily on sheep and goat, while cows and chickens came in a distant second and third. It's meaning it wasn't their favorite choice of meat, but they ate it. Their favorite choice was sheep and goat. Cows and chickens came in a close, distant second and third. Tel Aviv University researchers reported in the most common comprehensive study of its kind, following several years of archaeological digs at an ancient landfill in the city of David. An analysis of the findings from the 1st century CE was published this week in the Tel Aviv Journal of the Institute of Archaeology of Tel Aviv University. The study, written by Dr. Yuval Gadat, Dr. Lidar Sapir Hen, and Dr. Abra Spikarik, I can't pronounce that name, is titled The Faunal Evidence from Early Roman Jerusalem, the People Behind the Garbage. Gadat, a senior lecturer at the university's Department of Archaeology, said on Sunday that the protracted dig took place some 800 meters from the Temple Mount. They began digging 3 years ago in an ancient landfill devoted to garbage disposal during the Roman occupation. He said by phone one of the main components found there was food waste. Let me read that again. One of the main components found there was food waste, including 12,000 animal bones, of which we identified 5,000. An exhaustive analysis of the bones determined that Jerusalem's ancient inhabitants strictly adhered to kosher dietary laws. Pay close attention. An exhaustive analysis of the bones determined that Jerusalem's ancient inhabitants strictly adhered to kosher dietary laws and primarily consumed sheep and goat meat. We found no pork bones, no shellfish. Now let me just stop right here. So somebody's probably saying, well, that might have been the Romans eating that. Well, let me make this clear. The Romans didn't have a dietary law, and they ate everything, including pork and shellfish and other forbidden meats. So if the Romans were the ones that garbaged these garbage waste of leftover foods, then we should have found pork bones and shellfish, among other things, in there as well. Because the Romans did not observe a dietary law, but the Israelites did. That's the reason you found no pork bones or shellfish and none of the other forbidden meats. We found no pork bones or shellfish whatsoever, and that 70 to 80% of the bones were from sheep and goat, with a little cow and chicken bones. Let me highlight that because y'all may want to come back and look this over again. Say, with a little cow and chicken bones, Gadat said. What was surprising was that there were no pigeon bones. And pigeons are a clean bird, by the way, because we know that they were breeding pigeons and that it was quite a big industry, he said. In the other landfills closer to the Temple Mount, past researchers found a lot of pigeon bones, and now we understand that they were not bred for food, but rather for cultic or sacrificial activities on the Temple Mount. So, just to be clear, the reason they did not find pork bones, shellfish, crab, lobster, and all that other stuff in there is because this was a garbage disposal for the Israelites. That's why you did not find any other forbidden bones in that garbage disposal or that wasteland. But you did find chicken bones. See, this is what I mean when people don't do their due diligence in their research. Don't listen to somebody else's video saying this or that, and then you don't go and verify it. You have to verify everything. The Most High says, test the spirit. Prove it. And it's bad when you carry somebody else's message to somebody else to hear when you haven't verified the content of that message. A lot of us make that mistake. I'm even guilty. I've done it too. But I've learned not to do that. I've learned to do my own research. And if I can't conclude to anything on that research, I just set that aside and I continue to look until I find the evidence. If I don't find the evidence, you won't hear it from me. Now, sorry, Colonel, Israel had real original recipe for chicken. So that put Colonel's chickens out of business. Had the Bible been seeking a stronger selling point, the Most High might have promised the Hebrews a land flowing with milk and delicious chicken dinners, at least according to new research published Tuesday. A team of researchers excavating the site of Marisha in the southern Judean plain say they found evidence that chicken and eggs were consumed in the region well before other antiquity sites. Now let me tell y'all something. You know, I'm going to tell you, since I've been doing these lessons for, I think somewhere around 10 years, maybe longer than that, I don't know. I've saw something very outstanding. And I've noticed that the Most High has made it possible that he will cause our enemies to give us the wisdom and knowledge that has been forgotten from us over the past centuries. He will make them bring forth, but we have to be able to identify it. We have to be able to acknowledge it. We can't say, oh, it came from a white man, I ain't hearing that. I admit, a lot of the white man's propaganda and literature, I do say stay away from. But you have to realize, some of it is intended for us. Now, they may not know they're being told or forced to give us this information, but nevertheless, the information, if you line it up with the scripture, it makes sense. So they were consumed in the region well before other antiquity sites. It's accurate to say that Israel is where the chicken business was invented. Doctoral student Lee Perry Gall told the Times of Israel, Jewish chicken soup, Kentucky fried chicken, it all has its roots in the Hellenistic city of Marisha in central Israel. At some point in between 200 and 400 BCE, the residents of Marisha began raising and eating chicken as well as the eggs, which we also have no evidence was eaten before this period, said Perigal, referring to an archaeological site near the Beit Guvrin caves in central Israel. That changed, and chicken became a part of the culinary culture of Israel, and eventually the rest of the Western world. Bottom line, chicken is kosher. So if you're struggling with this dilemma, you shouldn't have to anymore. But my advice to my people is be careful who we listen to, and do your research. And if you have problems running into certain hinders in your research, reach out. There are some very intelligent people on this channel, and they are good at researching. I've seen the questions they ask. That tells me they are not joking around. They are good at what they do. So, the dilemma is chicken clean or unclean? Well, I'll tell you this. I'm about to fry up me a big mess of fried chicken today. Shalom.